It's a Famicom. It's a Famicom Disk System. Hey, it's the Sharp Twin Famicom. Guys, this is one of the newest additions to my console collection. I absolutely love it. The Sharp Twin Famicom, released in Japan only in 1986. And this is exactly what I said it is. It allows you to play Famicom Disk System games here and Famicom games here. And I absolutely love it. Yes, you can buy a regular Famicom and a Famicom Disk System and hook them together and get the same functionality, but I think this system's a little better for a couple of reasons. One, it looks a little more sleek to me. It comes in this nice box here. It actually came in 3 different variants. There is an all-red Sharp Twin Famicom. There's also a black one just like this, but instead of red trim, it has green trim, and this button would be green. So like I was saying earlier, you can play regular, let me flip this back. So this switch will actually, it's a good reason I did that, allows you to flip back and forth between Famicom and Famicom Disk System games. And if you have this switch up, it locks you out of this cartridge slot. So you can't actually put in a cartridge. But once you flip that down, you can put any Famicom game in there. And hey, it plays just like it would on a regular Famicom. One reason that you would want to play Famicom games like this one, for instance, is Akumajo Densetsu, which is basically Castlevania 3. But the difference is the Famicom version has a extra sound chip in it, which allows you to get an extra sound channel. And so it's kind of like listening to a beefed up version of the Castlevania 3 soundtrack instead of the one we got in the United States. Not that that's a bad one, but it is kind of neat to be able to hear the music as it was originally intended. So another feature of this console is this handy-dandy eject button, which, much like a piece of bread in a toaster, you hit that and it pops right out. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you want to do that over and over again because you saw what happened. So this is your reset button here. Allows you to reset the game. This is your power button here. Obviously, this is where you put in your Famicom Disk System games. And you have built-in controllers with a generous, I don't know, how far is that? 3 feet maybe, 4 or 5 feet tops. So this is the controller. It looks just like a Famicom controller, pretty standard. But what is interesting is the second controller here has the microphone built into it, just like a Famicom controller would. And so there's your little volume thing there. And some of the games that you would play, not a whole lot, but a few, required you to say something or blow into the microphone. No, that didn't just start with the Nintendo Wii. That's actually a very, very old Nintendo feature that's been around forever, it seems, since at least the late 80s. So moving on, we have an extension port over here, and what's interesting about that is I bought a cable that plugs into here, and you can see on the end of this cable, it's basically an adapter, and just like you're seeing here, that's an NES plug. And so you can plug in a regular NES controller and use your NES peripherals on it. Now, not every NES peripheral works. I don't think the power pad works, but I'm pretty sure the zapper does, and most controllers do, so the Advantage works. I know the NES Max does, but why would you ever want to use that controller? And so if you want turbo, stuff like that, you can definitely get it on the Twin Famicom. You can also, it's worth noting, you can also buy an adapter like the one I have here, and you can play your NES games on the Sharp Twin Famicom, and you would just plug this little guy in here, and you can plug your cartridge in, and boom, there you go. Now you can play your NES cartridges on the Sharp Twin Famicom. Let me do this again. Oh, it didn't even get liftoff. Alright guys, real quick before we get into some gameplay footage, let's talk Famicom Disk System games. So one question you might be asking yourself is, why would you want to play these games on the Famicom Disk System when they have really long loading times and you have to get up and flip the disc between side A and side B, when you could just play the regular NES cartridge version that loads quickly and it's much easier to get your hands on a copy? And so I think there are 3 reasons why you would want to play games on the Famicom Disk System. I have 3 games here: Castlevania 2, Doki Doki Panic. Some of you might know this is Super Mario Bros. 2 released in North America. They switched out the sprites with Mario sprites. And Gunsmoke. And so the three reasons why I think you would want to play a Famicom Disk System game. Number one, novelty. I think it's pretty cool to be able to play the games as Nintendo originally intended on these proprietary floppies and experience, how people play these games when they were first released. I think it's interesting. I'm not necessarily saying it's the best way to play them, but it is, the way that they originally came out. There are different versions of the soundtracks depending on the game that you're playing. For instance, this one here, Castlevania 2, takes advantage of the Famicom Disk System's ability to play wavetable synthesis tracks, and so it has a completely different soundtrack than the North American cartridge version. Number 3, I think some of the games that were released, at least some of the ones that I found, were only released in Japan on the Famicom Disk System and are not available on the cartridge format. So, there are 3 reasons there that I think you would want to play Famicom Disk System games.
Which brings me to why you wouldn't want to play a Famicom Disk System game. The loading times. Now, this is actual footage of me loading Castlevania 2 on the Sharp Twin Famicom, and it takes a while. I would say roughly about 5 to 10 seconds, depending on, what you're loading. But if you can look past that, you can actually have a lot of fun with Famicom Disk System games. This is the exact same game that was released in the United States, but like you hear, it has a different soundtrack thanks to the Famicom Disk System's ability to play wavetable synthesis, and you have the ability to save directly to the disk, which is nice, so you don't have to type in like a 40-character password like you would normally on the American version. Now, you might think a game like Castlevania 2, with its RPG elements, might be difficult to play in Japanese, but not really. If you think about it, in the American version, the townspeople, they either straight out lie to you, or when they do offer hints, they're often inscrutable to the point where you don't even understand what you're supposed to do. So for a game like Castlevania 2, I say even if you're playing the American version or the Japanese version, it's better to just use a walkthrough, because honestly, you're going to waste a lot of time wandering around trying to figure out what the hell to do. I mean, now we have the internet, but back when I was a kid and I played this game for the first time, the only 2 resources I had were Nintendo Power and going to other kids on the playground who would also straight up lie to me. Real quick, let's take a listen to Castlevania 2 on the Sharp Twin Famicom. Let's check out DOKI Panic for the Famicom Disk System. Like I said earlier, this game was released as Super Mario Bros. 2 in the United States after the original Super Mario Bros. 2, which we know as the Lost Levels, was deemed too hard for American players by Nintendo of America, and rightfully so, because Super Mario Bros. 2 is a good game, and DOKI Panic is also a good game. The Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2, however, is not a good game. Anyway, you can see this whole sequence here is completely different and unique to the Famicom Disk System. It's asking me to flip the disc over now that it's done with the intro, and we will begin the game as soon as this thing is done loading. Here we go. And you can select from 4 different characters. You also can save the progress that you make with each of those characters directly to the disc. And you can see I'm playing as this guy that kind of looks like Toad, but is not Toad. The characters themselves are actually from a tie-in with Fuji Television's Media Technology Expo called Dream Factory. And just like Super Mario Bros. 2, each of them possess unique traits. One of them can jump higher, this guy is faster than the other characters, the princess character can float, so on and so forth. It's pretty much the same game that you remember playing as Super Mario Bros. 2, except for this slightly racist thing, whatever that's supposed to be. And some of the music's a little different. See, that's a lamp instead of a magic potion to take me into the dream world. And you can hear this music's a little different than the United States Super Mario Bros. 2. So if you ever wondered to yourself why a lot of the characters in Super Mario Bros. 2 never appeared in any other Mario games, now you know. I mentioned earlier that playing Castlevania 3 on a Sharp Twin Famicom will allow you to hear the extra sound channel. So real quick, let's take a listen between the Japanese and American version.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that look at the Sharp Twin Famicom and some Famicom Disk System games. As always, I enjoy making these videos, and I wanted to say thank you to all the new subscribers and the feedback and the comments. Keep them coming. I really appreciate those. If this is your first time watching this channel and you like what you saw, please hit the subscribe button. That's what motivates me week to week to keep making these videos and keep making content for you guys. And I'll always be showing off new things and making new videos. So thanks again for all of that. Until next week, happy collecting.